much for coming. It's cool to be here. I've been meaning to come out for a while, but I have a conflict every Monday, and so finally this fall it freed up, and I'm really excited to come here and chat with all of you. If you want to tweet at me, Heather Payne is my Twitter handle. And if you want to talk about Ladies Learning Code, you can use that massively long hashtag. I'm here today actually just to say a really big thanks to everybody in this room and all of the people in Toronto's awesome tech community that have made what I do possible over the past 2 and a bit years. And for those of you who don't know what I do, I'm the founder of a nonprofit which is called Ladies Learning Code, workshops for women and men who want to learn beginner-friendly computer programming skills in a social and collaborative way. We've been around since August of 2011, so a little bit more than 2 years now. Started off super slow, casually, sort of like a meetup group, and from there we built it out, and now this is part of my full-time job, and we have quite a relatively large team at the moment. Has anyone here been a mentor at Ladies Learning Code in the past? Oh, not that many. I was expecting it to be more. That's okay. So a couple things I'll just mention about, that makes Ladies Learning Code really cool. The biggest thing is, first of all, it's for everyone, super beginner friendly. You do not need any knowledge other than like how to check your email in order to come out. And a lot of people are really surprised and excited about that when they hear that, a solution has been created just for them to get them started in learning how to code. But the cooler thing, I think, is that at Ladies Learning Code, we have a 4-to-1 ratio of students to instructors at every single workshop. So we do really big workshops sometimes. We've done them as large as 80 people, 120 people, and you can imagine that all of those workshops, it means that there are a lot of people just like you giving up a full Saturday or Sunday to say, you know what, this is an important thing that I want to support. I'm going to come out and help some beginners learn. And so it's really that I want to say thanks for, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about what we've been able to do because of all of your support over the past couple of years. So this really is just a story of how this community has made our nonprofit possible, and it's not just in Toronto. In Toronto, we led the way, but Ladies Learning Code is now in 10 cities across Canada. So how it started, in case you don't know the story, I went to a workshop in Los Angeles when I was there in May of 2011, just by chance. It was for women who wanted to learn Python, and at the time I'd been learning to code on my own for about 2 years. Sometimes having success and sometimes having absolute miserable failures and thinking that I just should give up. So I went to this workshop. It was led by the Pi Ladies, another nonprofit group that you may have heard of, and it was one of the coolest things that I had ever experienced. It was like suddenly, all of the frustrations that I had were gone because there was somebody there to answer any question that I had. So I came back to Toronto, and despite the fact that I was not involved in the startup community, was not really involved in technology other than what I'd been learning about it on my own through Google over the past few years, I tweeted about how we should have a group in Toronto for women who want to learn how to code. And I actually didn't even give it this name. I was just talking about this idea on Twitter, and someone said, hashtag Ladies Learning Code, and we turned that into this, which you see today. So the cool thing about Ladies Learning Code, like I said, is that it's been really successful at onboarding not just new developers, although we have certainly had a lot of people completely transition from a non-tech career into a technical career, but more so that it's just helping to spread digital literacy. And we all know that that's really important. I'm sure for all of you, it's much more pleasant when you have a manager who understands technology versus one who doesn't. And that's one of the main reasons people come to Ladies Learning Code, is because they want to be able to communicate more effectively with the people that they work with. But the other cool thing about Ladies Learning Code is just this kind of stuff that you can see in the image. It's just like hundreds of people getting together in a room, and lots of people volunteering their time and just being like, you know what, let's talk about what a variable is. That's a really cool thing. Tons of companies have supported this, as well as that Extreme Labs office. And for me, the coolest thing is this is the expression that I get to see every day. People just having their minds blown by something that all of you take for granted, really. And for us, it's when you're first learning, that aha moment where you're like, oh my God, I get how those two things go together, is a really exciting one. And I think that's one of the reasons people love to volunteer at Ladies Learning Code, is because for an entire day, you'll get to take 4 people who had no idea what they were doing. They may have been very nervous about showing up. They could be from any age, any background, and you take them through this entire process of like knowing nothing, being scared, to at the end being like, I made a website, or like I made a game in Python, or whatever it may be. So if you haven't been out yet, I really do encourage you to come out. It's a lot of fun, and it's a really cool community to be part of as well. Our volunteer community is super awesome and tight. So that was, to put this in sort of context, our first workshop was August 2011. By October, I decided to quit my job and become a full-time volunteer for now and see if I could turn Ladies Learning Code into something that could maybe be a job one day. But at the same time, we also realized that Ladies Learning Code wasn't ever going to be enough. If we wanted to have an impact on the number of women in tech, and that is obviously one of the reasons it's called Ladies Learning Code, is because we do need more women in tech, we would have to start younger. And so I came up with this idea, this non-original idea called Girls Learning Code, which basically was for 8 to 12-year-olds or 13 to 17-year-olds. And so we started this, started talking about it in like fall of 2011. That March, we did our first ever one-week March break camp. So we had 40 girls from all over the GTA come to Toronto. We hosted it in Mozilla's office, which is like, that's so cool. I don't know if you've been to their office, but it's a super beautiful and inspiring place. And these girls, we set up a computer lab for them, and we pretty much blew their minds with how awesome technology is and how excited all of us were about it. So our girl stuff, one of the reasons I think it's so cool is, first of all, we put girls in a room with other girls that also are excited about technology. And for those of you maybe as kids, not having friends who were into technology like you were, you can feel that it can be pretty isolating. And so I think we've helped a lot of girls to find others that they can talk to about this kind of thing. The other thing is that all of our instructors, they're all volunteers as well, by the way. So if any of you have an employer who's willing to let you take off a couple days during the week and you want to come volunteer at a camp, we would love to have you. That's basically how it works, and that's how we staff these things. But another thing is, like, all of our instructors, they're not mother figures or father figures or teacher figures as much. They're like older sister figures. And this is a really big deal to a preteen girl. It's like, if you're learning about Python from me, and they say I look like Taylor Swift, and I'm like, good. Taylor Swift tells you learn to code. But if you're learning about that from someone who you think is cool, you're way more likely to continue learning it and keep thinking that it's cool. So for us, we think that's a really important part of the camp program. And then we also just do cool things, like we take them on a field trip to visit the Google office. And afterwards, they're all like, I want to work at Google. They go home. And we hope that will encourage them to consider keeping on with math and science in high school, and then at least have their options to maybe study something STEM-related in university. So a couple more photos of our girls' events. And then moms started complaining. And dads about how our programs were just for girls. Because those ones are actually just for girls. We don't allow boys to join. And so we said, well, we have a solution for that. Kids Learning Code. So we created Kids Learning Code. And Kids Learning Code is really cool, mainly because we reserve 50% of tickets to all the events for boys and 50% for girls. And so when it sells out, and that means at the workshop itself, there's a nice balance. And we find that the vibe of the workshops are really sort of social and collaborative and positive. We have a balance of men and women as instructors and mentors. And we've had just a lot of fun bringing boys into the mix. And this is a recent change. We did this June. So we've been doing workshops, co-ed workshops for kids since June, and it's been a blast. We do workshops every PA day. So if kids, instead of staying at home or going to a babysitter's, they can come to our office and come and learn to code instead. And so we had a 32-person Kids Learning Code processing workshop on the most recent PA day, and it was a blast. So lots of stuff like that. Just a variety of things. Kids looking happy, learning to code. And I will just mention, we are also looking for sponsors for Ladies Learning Code for 2014. So if any of you have an employer who you think might be supportive of something like this, we have a sponsorship package that you can download at ladieslearningcode.com/sponsors. And then I'll mention HackerYou briefly, just because there is something about HackerYou that's really interesting. HackerYou, we started in June of 2012 for a couple of reasons. So first of all, it's a programming bootcamp, same as BitMaker Labs, if you've heard of them. And so we started it partially because we realized that Ladies Learning Code was never going to grow fast enough to pay for all of the staff and space that Ladies Learning Code would need. And so HackerYou as a for-profit company helps us subsidize the cost of Ladies Learning Code. Also because people started asking for it, they come to our one-day workshops and they're like, hey, this is so cool. Can you do something that's like 3 months long or 2 months long? And we were like, sure, why not? And also, programming bootcamps were starting to pop up in the States, and we thought, if anyone's going to do that in Toronto, it should be us. But the cool thing about HackerYou really is that it's the only female-founded programming bootcamp in existence. There are no others, and there are dozens of them. I don't know if any of you are dialed into that whole new industry that's popped up, but there are a lot of these around, and Toronto has the only one that's founded by women. And as a result of this, it's pretty interesting. 60% of people who come to our courses are female. And in our full-time bootcamp that we're running in January, which is like a front-end intensive bootcamp where we churn out front-end developers, 82% of our students are female. It's wild. And it's just something to keep in mind. I mentioned it not because it's really part of my talk, but because having women on your team is a really interesting way to attract more women to your team. So just something to keep in mind. If you're running a conference or something like that, having a female space on your website can be really helpful. And for us, we're finding that because this is a bootcamp founded by women, women feel a lot more welcome signing up for it. And I also wanted to mention we have a really cool relationship with Bootmaker Labs, and I think between their back-end program and our front-end program, we're doing a really good job of sort of setting up Toronto for hopefully more success in creating tech talent in the coming years. And this is a photo of our current classroom that we have at Bloor and Bathurst. And so the reason that all of this is possible at all is because Toronto, because of all of you. And I think that is really the coolest thing ever. I never would have thought that this is something that could be a job for me, or that I could spend my time creating awesome events for beginners to learn how to code. That didn't even exist, when I was a kid or when I was in high school. But the reason it's possible is because we have incredible support from all of you. As soon as everyone stops volunteering for our events, we will have to shut down, literally. They will not be good, and people will stop coming, and then that will be the end. So the reason it's possible is really because of everyone here in this room and everyone else who's volunteered. And to give you an idea of the kind of stats we're talking about, between Ladies Learning Code, Girls Learning Code, and Kids Learning Code, we've had 150 one-day workshops across Canada. 6,000 people have been as a participant. We've had 150 lead instructors, 1,500 mentors, which is 12,000 mentor hours. And another thing that's really neat is that we don't really, this is probably the most active I've ever been in asking people to volunteer. We don't really ask, we just have a sign up on our website. If you're interested, go to ladieslearningcode.com and click Tech Help Mailing List. But the people come back because it's fun. You just have to trust me on that you are going to have a good time. And it's not just 10 a.m. Saturday morning, why am I doing this? And then the thing that I'm most proud of, between Ladies Learning Code and HackerYou, we have created 6.5 cool full-time jobs, dozens of part-time jobs across Canada, and almost everyone on our team is under 30. So pretty cool young people working for us on our team, and at a time when young people that are not technical are having a tough time finding their first gig, we're trying to do our best to make that as possible for them as we can. And like I said, it's because of all of you. So I want to mention some exciting news. This is the announcement of it. We haven't spoken about this yet. We're going to announce it officially tomorrow morning, but we are so grateful to the tech community for supporting us over the past few years as we've been getting started and getting rolling, and we're really excited to not just continue to support you the way we have been, but to up it a little bit. And so we're actually moving into a pretty sweet new office, the 3rd floor above Urban Outfitters on Queen Street. The entire floor will be ours, elevator, wheelchair access, come on in. And what we're hoping this will be is a digital literacy hub for Toronto. So when you need to host a meetup group somewhere, we want to host it for you. If you have a hackathon, we want to host that hackathon for you. It'll also have a 60-person classroom, a 30-person classroom, a beginner-friendly makerspace, an open device lab if you need to test your website on different phones, as well as open co-working space with tables and chairs. It's a great event space. It'll have a bar. To do it for an event. So this is really exciting. It was a really effing scary decision to make, but we're all in. And so if all of you at any point in the future will be moving in January, so between now and then, if you have an event or if you know something happening in the spring and you're we really need a place for that, we would love to host you there. That's all I've got. So thank you all very much for listening, and thank you for supporting us. Really.